Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Commissioners' meeting this morning, May 13, 9 a.m. We'll be getting to the workshop meeting brief in just a bit here. We have scheduled prior to that a public hearing. This is in regards to community development block grant monies. And we have Chris Rafferty from the Housing and Redevelopment Authority on hand to essentially report to us on the performance evaluation report. So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to present the consolidated annual performance and evaluation report for program year 2020. We're required to submit this report. It's called CAPER to HUD, and it covers both the CDBG program and the Home Investment Partnership Program. So in 2020, the county received a grant of $1.2 million under the block grant program and $526,000 under the home program. I'll just go over some basic accomplishments and open up any questions or comments from the public or the commissioners. So we're required to expend 70% of the CDBG funds for activities that benefit low and moderate income people. In program year 20, the county expended 100% of their funds on low activities that benefited low and moderate income people. We're also required to spend no more than 15% of our funds on public service activities. And in 2020, the county expended 13.84% of their CDBG funds on these activities. So we were under that limitation. Also, the county or no committee is permitted to spend more than 20% of their CDBG allocation on program admin or planning. And in 2020, the county expended 15.84% of their funds on program administration. So, regarding some accomplishments, one point of clarification, under housing, in the first-time homebuyers program, the county does not use its CDBG funds for its first-time homebuyers program. The county uses the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which are fees. That fund is created by fees for the recording of deeds of mortgages. And in 2020, we awarded or obligated $130,000 to first-time homebuyers. Of those that were allocated money, 9 closed on properties, and we're still working with the others. Given the housing market at this point, it's very difficult for our first home buyers participants to compete in the market. So we are having a little bit of a issue there. We did extend their ability to commit to a property. In fact, I extended the timeline to 3 months, additional 3 months. On our homeowner rehab program, this program was affected by COVID to a great extent. We only completed 2 activities for homeowner occupied rehabilitation, and that was the same thing that held true with the Borough of Carlisle's program. On code enforcement, we provide funds to Schmittsburg Borough, Schmittsburg Township, and Newport Borough, and they conducted 1,300 inspections in their communities. Some other accomplishments on public services, we provided funds to, the county provided funds to the YWCA's Grandview After School program, the local housing options team coordinator, and that position there provides housing opportunities to the homeless and disabled to help them find housing in the county. Also, we funded the supportive housing coordinator services, and that position provides senior citizens who reside in the housing authority properties of the county with a wide range of social service activities. We also provide police funds to police patrol additional police patrols in Cumberland Borough. That's been an ongoing activity. And we provided funds to Newville Borough, Mount Holly Springs, New Cumberland Borough, Lemoyne Borough, and Shippensburg Borough to undertake a wide range of public service activities. It is all completed in 2020. As far as the financial information, so of the $1.2 million that we received, we expended 1.2, roughly all the funds available that we had. However, we did have money from prior years that were carried over, and so those funds are not all expended. So that's a quick review of our program accomplishments in 2020. What happens at this point is when the county commissioners approve the paper, we will submit to HUD for their review and approval, and we will also undertake and respond to any public comments we receive, whether through writing or based on this public hearing. So are there any questions?
Chris, I have one. On the financial summary, where it indicates the unexpended balance year end of $588,000, was that anticipated, or is that due partly to COVID?
That is due to a couple factors. One, our program year starts on January 1st. However, a lot of times we do not get our ready agreement from our contract with HUD until June, July, or August. So our program year is almost half done. So that's called a backlog in prior years. In addition, we did not anticipate the amount of program income we received. This year we received $232,000 worth of program income. Normally, we receive no more than $50,000. So that was due to repayments of loans for businesses that we have done over the years, and also for the homeowner rehab program where people who sell their properties are required to reimburse the county for the grant they receive. So based on those factors, that's why we have a larger unexpended balance of funds at the end of 2020.
Thank you, Chris. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Chris, I have a question. It's kind of more of a generalized question, but I heard you mention a couple of times about funds that are expended specifically for Newville Borough, Shippensburg Borough, Mount Holly, Lemoyne. I think Cumberland was also mentioned. You mentioned inspections for one of it. You mentioned something else. And I guess I have a question on that, which is, are there other municipalities that are eligible that are, we keep hearing these recurring over and over the years. And I'm trying to figure out, are these the ones that are eligible? Are there others that are eligible and not receiving, but we seem to constantly be approving funds into these municipalities. And I guess my question is, in regards to fairness to the other municipalities, eligible and non-eligible, and for those specific funds that you're mentioning today and others. So is there any requirement that the municipalities take responsibility for some of these things, or are they simply eligible because of poverty numbers, or what's the backstory on why a handful of boroughs are constantly on the receiving end of this?
Right. So based on HUD's requirements, we must do activities that benefit low moderate income people, and primarily on an area benefit activity, which is what we're undertaking in some of these communities. We have to do census information. So we have maps that show the low moderate income areas of all the communities in the county. And so based on that information, we do get most of the applications for funding from the boroughs. However, we can have communities do an income survey if they feel an area is low moderate income. Say it's primarily an area where you have a lot of senior citizens on a fixed income. So we can do those type of activities, but again, we have to document that activity does benefit low moderate income folks. So what we're planning on doing, because when I first started in this position, I did realize that a lot of the focus, a lot of the funding has gone to the same communities year in, year out. So we're going to do some outreach to some of the other communities and talk to them, so they understand that even though the census might not show, an area is low moderate income, if they focus and narrow down the area, say for example, they want to do a curb and sidewalk and or drainage project, that's a very low, very small service area. So they wouldn't have to do an income survey of the entire community just where that property, or just where that project is located. So, we hope to get more participation from a lot of the communities from across the county. We can also work with some of the municipalities that, even though they may not qualify for a public facility improvement, we may be able to provide them assistance if they want to come and take a zoning, code enforcement, and land use activity. So we can look at that option as well. But again, from our point of view, we have to do a better job educating the municipalities in the county what the options are, and just work with them to make sure they understand the requirements, and then help them, apply for an activity.
Okay, I think you mostly answered my question, and it sounds as if you're acknowledging that there are communities that probably have eligibility. And of course, that's not a fixed situation. We have pockets of poverty developing a number of places, and not just in boroughs, but certainly to some degree because of other public policies that are tending to concentrate those pockets within boroughs. But I'm thinking specifically places like West Fairview, a former borough that's now part of a township and does not show up on the borough radar. We have some pockets developing in Mechanicsburg, and I think there's probably some other boroughs that, whether they want to admit it or not, are facing, because of changing demographics, they're facing a different profile than the one that we've been operating off of for a very long time. So you're saying, just so I'm clear, you're saying there will be outreach made to other communities to ensure that we have a full understanding of eligibility countywide, and that some of those communities may be able to avail themselves of some of this funding that has historically been funneled toward a little handful of communities.
That's correct.
Okay, great. That's all I have. We'll be receiving updates on that effort, I'm sure, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Very good. Appreciate your answer. Thank you. That's all I have. Any others? Okay, at this point, there's opportunity for members of the public who wish to comment on this specific agenda item. So anyone online, anyone in person who wishes to speak to the CDBG issue? Apparently there's none. So at that point, I guess we can draw the public hearing to a close. Do I need a motion for that, or can I do that?
You can declare.
Okay. The public hearing is closed. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate your participation and your information. At this point, I will pass the baton over to our Chief Operations Officer to pick up the Commissioners' Workshop agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Eichelberger. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 13, 2021 Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Today, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I call this meeting to order at 9:15 a.m. And at this time, I'll open up the floor to public comments. If you are on Zoom and you have a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature so that we can call on you. First, is anybody here for public comment in the room? Okay, so I'll start by calling on Mike Blanchfield.
Before we begin, let me just clarify how this works, because it sounds like we have several individuals who are looking for public comment. We do have a full agenda. We welcome public comment, but there are requirements to it, so I just want to spell those out. Every individual who speaks, please identify yourself, the municipality you live in, speak to your issue succinctly if you can, please. We generally grant 3 minutes as our standard practice. Chairman has flexibility to extend that somewhat. However, we are also mindful of the extent of public business we have to conduct today. We also will require that you practice a certain level of decorum and respectfulness in your comments. We understand there are issues that people get heated over. I can certainly attest to that. But we ask you to stay on focus so that we can complete this. In recent meetings, we had some individuals who could not live by those restrictions, and their comments were terminated. So we don't like doing that, but we do have to stay on task here. So Mr. Blanchfield, I believe you are first, and you are free to proceed with your comments.
Okay, great, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thanks. And thanks for allowing us to present our concerns here at this meeting, and I'll try to be brief. I sent a presentation yesterday towards the end of the day. I don't know if you had a chance to see that. I sent it through Stacy. Did you get it? Does everybody have a copy of my presentation?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mike, I believe you sent that to both myself and Tammy, and probably between the two of us, we thought the other was handling it. I do apologize. We'll make sure that the commissioners each receive that after the meeting.
Okay. Anyway, you'll be able to review that later. So I know I only have a few minutes, but I'm a Hampton Township resident in Point Ridge Farms, and the topic is the rock dam at the Forest Bridge location that was removed as part of the project in building a new bridge. Last fall, that was removed. Well, I don't know exactly when it was removed, but about last fall, the project was completed. And there was during the project, there was a rock dam that everybody knew about. It's been in all the publications from the county that rock dam would not be impacted. So if you follow through the presentation, even if you've just seen it now for the first time, the rock dam has been in place for roughly 60 years. It was a permitted dam. It was permitted, permit was approved by the Department of Environmental Resources. And then before construction even began on the new bridge, multiple public statements from the county said that rock dam would not be impacted. So that was good news to many of the people that live in the area that use the creek for fishing and rafting and kayaking and that type of thing, because it does increase the water levels upstream of the dam. So when that rock dam was removed, I don't know if it was an accident, what happened, but it was removed. We reached out to the county, and we were informed that it would be restored. So I'm just going to jump ahead in the interest of time. I've got some pictures that show slide 3. A couple of years ago, when the dam was in place, one of the neighbors has a picture in the canoe with his dog, and he went back just a couple of weeks ago and took this almost the exact same view, so you can see the change in the elevation. Slide 4 shows a picture from 2015 where you can see the dam, and it has a very small difference in height from upstream versus downstream. Slide 5 is a message from Kirk Stoner. I don't know if he's in attendance at this meeting, but back to me, and I'll just paraphrase. He said that it will be restored to pre-construction levels. That's what he said. This was June of 20. So the creek levels had already come down during the project. And so I was comforted, as well as were other neighbors. And I know many neighbors have reached out, so this is really not a new topic. It was restored, and now I'm on slide 6, the lower right-hand comment. It was restored, but from what I'm told, I wasn't in the area at the time, so I never actually saw it. I was told it was built too high. It directed all the water to the northeast side, and therefore there was no water downstream on the other side of the dam. And I think the Pine Brook people complained, which I would understand. It was all muddy. The water was stagnant on the southwest side. It just wasn't done properly. It wasn't the same as it was. Slide 7 shows some aerial images, let's see, before construction and during construction. construction. And you can see remnants of the old dam. So, again, in the interest of time, this isn't probably the place to go into depth discussion, but there's been a lot of comments and neighbors that have reached out to county officials and have been very frustrated because they're getting nowhere. So our ask on slide 9, slide 10, is to restore the dam to what it was, status quo before the project started. Same height and width, so we're not asking for anything more than that. I understand because of the change in plans where there was in the attempt to restore the dam last fall, that was done without a permit. The DEP got involved, and then they told Cumberland County to remove what they've installed. DEP didn't know about this plan to restore. So I understand what's going to have to happen now is there'll have to be an application to get a permit to build back the dam that was there. I've been in touch with DEP. They sent me the forms yesterday, and I'm sure your team already has it. But that's the purpose, and I think I'm right at 3 minutes slightly over, so I'll stop. But those are our concerns. We actually have already started a petition. We have over 350 signers from Point Ridge and neighboring Indian Creek, Pine Brook, all the nearby neighbors. So there's definitely broad support for this.
Okay, we're at 5 minutes plus now, so thanks. I think we got the gist of it, and we'll take a look at we'll certainly take a look at the presentation you sent. You say late yesterday is when it?
Yeah, I sent it like 4 o'clock yesterday.
Okay. All right, we'll take a look for that. Commissioners are familiar with this issue. There were a number of decisions made throughout. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Kirk, would you say Mr. Blanchfield's characterizations are correct, or did you want to add any?
Sure, just for the board's sake, I mean, this issue started last October. We received an email from Ron Eberts on October 19th indicating they're getting complaints about the dam being in place. Okay, so complaints about the dam being in place. At the end of the project, we're restoring it. We received complaints, a lot of resident calls on both sides. I received calls nearly every day about what's going to happen. It was our intent to restore what was there. Again, it's not a dam, it's a rock pile. It was a permanent dam earlier. 2008 it was breached, and now it's just a rock pile in the creek, no longer recognized or permitted as a dam. We did have elevations from the initial dam permit from DEP. At the end of the project, put it back in place. Really didn't have the opportunity to put it to the height that it should have been, so admittedly it was high. But shortly thereafter, that was October 19th, October 23rd, that Friday, I received an email from DEP directing us. DEP believes the best way to move forward is to remove the full-length temporary causeway / unpermitted dam in its entirety to the stream bed according to your water obstruction and encroachment permit. So when an environmental agency, a permitting agency like DEP gives us a directive, we don't have an option to say, hey, hold up, we're not going to do this. We removed it then the next week, it was gone. Subsequent to that, we received a notice of violation from DEP for a full-length causeway, which we've discussed several times. We worked with DEP over the several months to fix that situation to their acceptance. To me, and I believe to DEP, this project is closed out as we finish up our mitigation measures. There's no requirement for us to put the dam back in. DEP has indicated if we want to do that, that's our discretion. We have to apply for a permit. But I would offer to the board that I don't believe, we're hearing some opinions on this. There's opinions on both sides of this. And putting a water obstruction back in place, I believe, would be a difficult process. A lot of studies have to go along with it. It would be your discretion as to whether or not you wanted to move forward with that permitting process. But again, we're not being required by DEP to do that.
So I have one or two questions. So you're saying that effectively there had been no dam since 2008?
No, what was there was a recognized dam, Gary, then it was breached around 2008. It wasn't permitted anymore as a dam, it was simply a rock pile.
Okay.
DEP never required removal of the remnants when that dam
Was there any, and when that happened in 2008, was there any discussion around the idea of replacing it at that point?
Not that we're aware of. I mean, it was outside of our purview.
All right. So, because we've been without this since 2008. And so now here's my follow-up question to that, which is there or is there not a systematic means by which water levels are measured in areas such as that?
For us, that we do, Gary, no.
Well, is there any information available that we know of, performed by anyone, that would allow us to determine whether water levels were materially affected?
Yeah. There's gauges throughout the Commonwealth, when none that are, immediately upstream or downstream to gauge the impact of one of those, of the dam.
All right, so we have nothing beyond photographs, which are, a snapshot of time, literally. Don't think it's any long term. So that we have no access to information that gives us a real picture of the water levels. We do not. All right, that's all I have.
Kirk, the county
So
is,
can you still hear me? So the reason I put together the presentation was to show photographs, actual photographs, well after 2008. So there's one on slide 3. I think you all have it, so you can just open that up.
We will review those, Mr. Blanchfield, but my point is that those water levels literally change by the hour. So I'm not sure the photograph is giving us the type of empirical, long-term information that I was just speaking to. So we'll definitely take a look at the photos. Right now, the commissioners have the floor and are asking questions, Mr. Stone.
Kirk, the county is going to install a new boat launch, correct, upstream?
Yes,
Okay, at our expense.
correct, as part of our NOV mitigation.
All right. I spent a lot of time on the County Limit, not so much down there, but I never noticed when I was through there that dam really increased the water level substantially. And always found to go upstream, you have plenty of water to enjoy yourself. But I just wanted to confirm on that boat launch. And also, yes, we will review the presentation that Mr. Blanchfield has sent us. Appreciate that, sir. That's all I have as far as questions.
Kirk, I really want to make sure that I understand the scenario of what happened with DEP. So if I'm understanding correctly, it was part of the plan to put this little dam back, this group of rocks back. And then DEP, we put it back and they went, oh, no, that can't be there. So we had to remove it, and I believe we were fined at that point in time?
No, we received a notice of violation.
Okay.
And in lieu of administrative penalties, we worked with DEP and we're under the process of constructing a boat launch upstream.
Correct. So that was part of our settlement with DEP.
Correct.
Okay. So this just seems so crazy to me. There's a rock dam. Part of the plan was we were going to put it back. DEP knows we're going to put it back. We put it back. They go, holy cow, you can't put this here anymore. Now you have a notice of violation. We have to settle with them, but now they're telling residents, including Mr. Blanchfield, that we could go get a permit to put it back? Am I understanding this scenario correctly?
I think what DEP is doing, Gene, is just laying out the options to Mr. Blanchfield and other residents that have called, saying what can happen. Cumberland County has the option of applying for a permit. I don't believe that DEP is encouraging us or telling us that we should take that course of action. I believe they're laying out the options so the residents are inquiring.
So I have to, I'm sorry, I'm stuck on this, Kirk. I'm just stuck on this. If they told us to put it back, to take it out, they went, put this back, but you can't have it, take it out. And by the way, now you have a violation and you had to settle with us to fix the violation. Why would they ever want us to put it back?
I don't believe that they do, Gene. I mean, as I look at this too and work with DEP, to me this issue is done. We're working with DEP, we'll finish up the NOV. They're requiring nothing else on us at this point. So I don't believe that the permitting agency, the agency that's required to evaluate that waterway, if there's irreparable harm that's done through an action of ours or someone else, they would be responsible for calling that out and then sending forth a mitigation plan.
Okay.
In this case, they have not done that. They gave us an NOV for our full-length causeway. We fixed that with them. We're working on the mitigation action, which is a boat launch upstream. They're considering this done. They're requiring no further action from us. They've laid out a few options for residents if we wanted to do this, but I can assure you, putting something back in the stream now as an obstruction in the stream is not an easy process. When we've heard from Mr. Blanchfield and other residents, I can assure you, I've also heard from other residents saying, hey, we're glad that thing's gone. And keep in mind, in October, what started the last discussion, I was getting tons and tons of calls as we were putting that rock pile back in place, residents are calling saying, why are you doing this? We don't want this. So there's discussion on both sides of this issue. And I think from our standpoint, we've completed our project, we've met with DEP, we've addressed the NOV, this is a done issue for us, unless the board decides to do anything extra, which is not required by DEP.
And it sounds like DEP doesn't want us to do it, or they wouldn't have made us remove it.
DEP has the authority to require us to do it if they believe that we needed to do it as part of a mitigation action.
Okay.
They have not required us to do it.
Okay, well, okay. So, but we put it in and DEP told us to take it out.
Right.
Okay. So it seems as if maybe DEP is miscommunicating with residents.
I believe DEP is giving, as residents are calling, they're saying, these are the options Cumberland County could pursue. I believe they're giving them information. I don't believe DEP, in my communications with DEP, and I've had plenty on this issue, I have not once been told you should put the rock ledge back in place, nor have I been told that you should fill out any sort of permit application to move the project forward.
Well, I certainly understand that this is frustrating for residents, and Mr. Blanchfield, I will read your presentation, I will look at all of your slides, and I appreciate your time today, and that you came here today to speak about this.
Anybody else have questions? I'll just reiterate, we appreciate the presentation that was provided. We'll definitely each take a look at that and determine whether the issue needs to be taken up again or if it remains resolved. So I don't think we can give you any answers today on that. We haven't seen the presentation yet, so but we will make that effort. So, okay. All right, so we have additional.
Mhm. Yeah, so next is Jason, and Jason, just as a reminder, if you provide your full name and your municipality, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We have you now, yes.
I had to unmute. My name is Jason Snyder. I live in Dickinson Township, pretty close to Cleveland. I have prepared I'm just going to read it. I'm not very good at public speaking, so I'm just going to read what I have prepared. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to represent thousands of abiding owners of Cumberland County. The Second Amendment to our U.S. Constitution is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of all people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Our PA state constitution says, Article 1, Section 21, the right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves in the state shall not be questioned. The U.S. Supreme Court in 2008, District of Columbia versus Heller ruling says, the Second Amendment guarantees an individual right to possess firearms independent of service in a state militia, to use firearms for traditional lawful purposes, including self-defense within the home, end quote. Our current federal political party in power does not seem to interpret the things I've just read as they are written. The new legislation being presented and the bills, laws making progress in the U.S. House and Senate are some of the most aggressive and unconstitutional firearms bills we have ever seen. Some of these bills include and are not limited to firearm registration for all guns, fees to be paid for firearms registration, licenses to own and buy firearms, psychiatric evaluations to qualify for a firearms license, buyback or confiscation of certain firearms now legal to own, and magazine capacity limits. These are a few of the things in the bills and current legislation. I come before you, Cumberland County Commissioners, with a grassroots movement to help put a layer of protection between anti-firearm legislation from Washington and Harrisburg to protect Cumberland County's legal firearms owners. A Second Amendment sanctuary county is a resolution drafted by county commissioners to not allow county sheriffs, local or town police, or any county employee from enforcing any new federal or state firearms laws that violate U.S. or state constitution regarding firearms. There are currently 11 states that are Second Amendment sanctuary states. Pennsylvania Senator Doug Mastriano this week introduced Senate Bill 624, the Right to Keep and Bear Arms Act. The wording of this bill is very similar to other Second Amendment sanctuary state resolutions. There are 12 Pennsylvania counties that already have Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions drawn up. 46% of all U.S. counties have Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions in place. 1,459 counties out of 3,144 total. I sincerely hope and pray whichever side of the fence each commissioner is on with this touchy subject, that you would consider adopting a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution to support the firearms owners and rights of Cumberland counties as law-abiding citizens. If our rights given to us by God and our constitutions are not held in the highest regard, the nation are path to destruction from within. If one amendment for right falls, which one is next? Thank you for hearing my and many other concerns. Please feel free to contact me with comments, questions. I will help in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. You did just fine, by the way, and appreciate your comments and your willingness to speak to the commissioners, even if it's not easy for some folks. So we'll take up this issue. We'll consider what you said and take it under advisement. We may be back with some questions. I only have one question off the hand, and I don't want to spend time on this today, but I do want to ask the solicitor. Has started to put you on the spot, but a resolution in this context, what is the legal teeth behind such a resolution? Does this make a material difference in terms of the rights of the individual, which are guaranteed in the Bill of Rights?
I'd have to see the resolution first, but
Okay.
in my opinion, those rights exist.
Yeah.
I think it's more of an affirmation by you
Okay.
in support of that.
Okay. We'll have to take a look at the specific resolution. I have not seen it yet. I presume that we have it in hand. Have we received a copy of that? I don't recall seeing that.
I didn't see it.
No, I have, through my research, each county kind of draws up their own. They're
I see.
all basically the same thing, but they're all worded differently.
I see. If you wouldn't mind sending us a draft, or several drafts if you'd like, we will definitely take a look at them. We'll have our solicitor take a look at them, and we'll proceed however the will of the board is at that point.
We did
Okay,
get,
I will get back with you next week on that.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
I do recall seeing something about a month ago that we got.
That was from Mr. Snyder.
Oh, that was your Mr.
Oh,
Schneider.
okay.
Mr. Snyder's
So we do
emailing
have
us.
it.
Yes, yes.
All right. So we do have that, okay. I thought I saw something.
If there's alternate versions, I wouldn't mind seeing those.
Sure.
So, okay. Thank you again, Mr. Snyder.
Sure, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, Morton Rubenstein.
Mr. Rubenstein.
Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you just fine, yes. Please go
I
ahead.
believe Dr. Ira Beckerman in attendance, who is going to give a presentation. Is he? If not, I will
Okay,
proceed.
your 3 minutes is running.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ira Beckerman. I am a resident of New Cumberland Borough. I volunteer for Citizens Climate Lobby, a nonpartisan grassroots organization with chapters in more than 90% of U.S. congressional districts working to address climate change. I'm here to request your endorsement of the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives this past March as H.R. 2307. The rapid heating of our planet will affect Cumberland County. As one example, our 1,200 farms provide over $200 million worth of products led by grain and milk. Hotter summers will reduce this production, and DEP's recent 2021 climate impact assessment lays out this and other risks. If we delay in dealing with carbon emissions, we will have to mitigate more climate impacts later, and we do need federal legislation now. Here's how the Act works. It levies a fee on fossil fuels at their source. The fee starts low and increases yearly until carbon emissions fall to targeted levels. The carbon fee raises the cost of fossil fuels to reflect their true societal costs, leveling the playing field for renewables like wind and solar. This leveled market will motivate citizens and businesses to conserve energy and transition to clean energy. A border tax adjustment will protect U.S. businesses from foreign competitors that pay no carbon fee in their home countries. The Act also protects American citizens from rising energy costs. All net revenue is returned to citizens as a dividend, paid to each eligible household in monthly installments. Each household's dividend is based on the number of dependents, and lower earning 55 to 60% of Americans will see the dividend more than offset their energy costs. Americans making slightly more will break even. Higher income earners will see a small increase in expenses. Spent dividends will stimulate the economy, growing jobs and GDP. The Act is good for us. It's market-based and avoids cumbersome new regulations. It's revenue neutral and won't increase the federal deficit. And then finally, reducing carbon emissions protects our citizens and our future generations from the major consequences of climate change. The Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act has attracted bipartisan support and the backing of U.S. corporations and business organizations. By endorsing the Act, you will send a powerful signal to our legislators in Congress that the Cumberland County Commissioners and the citizens you represent want effective and timely action to address our climate problem. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. We're glad to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have questions?
I have a comment and a question. First of all, gentlemen, thank you. We did receive a written presentation from you a couple days ago. Admittedly, I have not read through all of it. I have read through some of it. Again, I appreciate your passion on this. I too certainly support and believe that our climate is changing. I think part of the reason is this natural, but certainly due to an excess of carbon. So I do support that effort, but in reading on how this Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act actually operates, it's a fee charged to, I guess, fossil fuel producers, and then that fee is given back to people to spend with no restrictions. I have a little, unless I'm missing something, I have a little problem understanding that. Wouldn't it be better to take, if there was such a tax, give that or provide training to all the people who are going to lose their jobs in the fossil fuel business, possibly for retraining? Could it be used to help those fossil fuel companies come up with ways to reduce carbon emissions from fossil fuels? I know you guys can't answer this. I have a lot more questions, and I'll probably have even more after I read through this. But those were my initial comments right now, and that's all I have at the moment.
If I may reply briefly to that, the reason that the dividends are returned to citizens is to protect the citizens from the rising energy costs. But there have been other carbon bills that have been proposed that do very much what you mentioned. Sometimes fees are used to protect, for example, coal communities, to offset increased business costs. There are lots of ways in which the dividends can be used. I could discuss this for many minutes, but I don't want to take up your time. But I believe I left my contact information. I would be glad to get in touch with you about why the bill is constructed the way it is and what the uses of the collective fee could be used for, if that's okay with you.
Sure, thank you, sir.
Any additional questions for Mr. Beckerman or Mr. Rubenstein?
I don't have any questions, but I certainly appreciated the materials and how thorough they are. This is something I'm very interested in. There's an intelligence community report that came out earlier this week that talks about the severity of climate change and what it means for our world as early as 2040, which quite frankly is right around the corner. So I certainly appreciate the work that you're doing, and I am supportive of this kind of bill. Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Thank you for your presentation. The commissioners will be able to follow up with you on any additional questions, and anyone who wants to pursue further action certainly has the ability to do that among the commissioners. I'm speaking, of course, so thank you.
Okay, there are no additional attendees with your hand raised, so I'll ask if any of our other Zoom participants have any public comment. Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3. And this was covered during the public hearing. Commissioners, if you do have any additional questions about this, I can send them off to Chris Rafferty. So we'll move on then to agenda item number 4, and I'll call on Commissioner Eichelberger to recognize Yellow Breeches EMS as they celebrate their 25th anniversary.
Right. We have some honored guests with us today. This is the part of the meeting we always enjoy. We have, let's see, Chief Shields, and I'm sorry, we don't have your name.
Can Bear.
Sorry?
Miss Bear.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being here today. I'm not sure how we want to do this because of the COVID restrictions, but we're going to be presenting.
Your Honor.
Or vaccinated.
What's that? You okay,
We're
Bob?
back now. We have lost your audio. You're back.
Okay, very good. We're just starting with the Yellow Breeches folks right now, so we just want to do a brief recognition here, and I want to mention a few things. The last year, 2020, obviously we were under certain restrictions, so we couldn't do this last year, but we're glad to have the opportunity. Last year marked the 20th anniversary, I'm sorry, the 25th anniversary of service that Yellow Breeches EMS, Company 91, provides in the South Middleton, Mount Holly, Springs area, and some of the communities around Dickinson Township as well, worth noting. So 25 years of service, and incredible service is absolutely vital to the folks who live there, and of course the population growing there, it's that much more important. So this May, in conjunction with National EMS Week, and that is the 16th through 22nd, we want to be honoring this 25th anniversary milestone, and we're going to be doing that during annual awards presentation. And we're pleased to have both of you with us. We do have a certificate of recognition we want to present to you, and it mentions the 25 years of medical services, gives a little bit of the history. I won't recount all this now, but it does mention the National EMS Week recognition, and this presents an opportunity for the commissioners to thank you and your organization for your compassionate quality care and dedication to our county citizens. And we want to present this to you. It's signed by the 3 commissioners, and we don't want a fancy frame for you, but we hope you'll find one and display this proudly at your facility. And how do we want to? We're going to do a photo, so
Yeah.
we can do a social distance
Well, we
type
can
of
do
photo.
that in the front of the desk and then back behind.
Okay, that sounds good. Then we'll have you choreograph this
Yeah,
appropriately.
and up the certificate, and if I get the 2 of you to stand right in front of me.
How about, should I just leave it with them?
Yeah, if you just leave it with them, that's fine, and then I'll just make sure, if everyone. We got over a little more, okay, perfect.
And you gotta direct us, make sure everybody's in the
Vince,
photo.
you can go a little bit this way.
We can do our distancing this way.
If you can all take a step as far forward as you can, commissioners, sorry. Okay. All right, I think we're good. Take a couple. Sure, good. All right, thank you.
That's great. We're gonna leave that with you.
I just want to thank you, commissioners, for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. And I brought Cam Bear with me because she's one of the original board members that's still providing the service to our community for 25 years.
That's what I'm gonna be proud of.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it. Oh, yeah. We've already delayed quite a while. We appreciate your patience.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll see you good.
Thank you.
That's the only one we have, right?
Yes.
Like you used to.
All right, so moving on to agenda item number 5, we'll call on Tammy Bender to discuss resolution 2021-17. Tammy?
Good morning, Commissioners. Finance is requesting approval of 3 budget resolutions. The first one is the general fund. We're increasing expenses by $816,000. This resolution is increasing budget to the contracted IGT transfer amount. The second resolution is for the general fund, again, increasing expenses by $475,000. This resolution is increasing budget to account for the CARES Act or prepaid expenses that were funded in 2020 with the CARES Act money. The last resolution is for liquid fuels. It's increasing revenues by $134,500 and expenses by $974,000 due to bridge projects being delayed in 2020, and the major expenses for these projects are now occurring in 2021. Are there any questions?
We're good.
All right, thank you, Tammy. Agenda item number 6 is contracts and grants, with agenda item 6, Roman numeral 1A through D, consisting of existing contracts, contract extensions, or addenda with no additional cost or increase to the county for children and youth, Claremont Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, Human Resources, and Public Safety. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding any of these agreements?
No.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6, Roman numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendor services, grants, and contracts with increases or decreases to the county. And I'll start with Christine Bowden to discuss the contract for aging and community services. Christine.
Good morning. We have a contract with Dalton County as a pass-through pass-through contract for the ADRC. As stated many times that we are the holder of the funds, and all of the counties have to come through us. So we have a contract with Dalton County to supply them with the funds for their PCC, person-centered counseling.
Do you have any questions for Christine? All right, thank you very much, Christine. Next, we have Lisa Ryder joining us on Zoom to discuss the addendum and contract for children and youth. Lisa?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to ask for approval for 2 contracts. The first one is for fiscal year 2021 for National Mentor. They provide foster care services for our agency. They are asking for rating from anywhere from $2.69 to $9.98, which equals is a 3.01% increase. They asked for this to begin July 1 of 2020. We negotiated with them and they agreed upon a rating effective 1/1 of 21, so just a half a year. We typically only have 2 to 3 kids in this provider, so we don't use them very heavily. The second one is for fiscal year 21-22. This is for Hempfield MST services. This rate is provided, it's separate to form care, and the service paid for by the form care. But there are occasions when child is not eligible for this, and we do fund it through our agency, which we do have an evidence-based grant to pay for it. They asked for a significant increase of $44.52, which is above the perform care rate. So we said that we would only go up to grant them an increase of $29 to go to the max, and that's a 5% increase. Is there any questions?
No.
All right, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Solicitor Brennan will discuss the first contract for the Commissioner's Office. Solicitor Brennan.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. First item is PFM Financial Advisors. This is an organization primarily that will involve Brad Remick to provide financial advice to the county with respect to their participation in a bond issue with respect to, oh my goodness. You heard a presentation on it a couple of weeks ago about
Central
Penn Business, yes, Central Penn College. I apologize for that. Among other things, he'll be analyzing the risk to the county in the county's involvement with respect to a reserve fund.
Thank you.
We'll get a panel on this side so you can read a few
Yeah.
points.
I appreciate that.
Only if we can do it old school, only if you take we'll write it out on the cards and you can, toss the cards down as we go. The second item for the Commissioner's Office is a grant agreement with U.S. Treasury. The grant agreement is required for us to accept our award of $49,214,152 as part of the American Rescue Plan Act. Commissioners, please note that this is an action requested item, but first, do you have any questions?
Anybody have any objections?
155 pages of
Yeah.
fun.
So the question is, anybody have any objections to accepting $49.2 million?
No way.
Okay, so we'll be looking for a motion on this issue then.
Well, I'll move to approve the acceptance from the U.S. Treasury of the American Rescue Plan dollars in the total amount of $49,214,152.
It is moved and seconded. I will only reiterate that our intention and our duty is to apply it wisely. So, that said, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, great. Next, I'll call on Jonathan Mace, who's here with us in the room to discuss the grant for the District Attorney's Office. Jonathen?
I'm having a little grant envy after that. But I'm here to request your approval for the acceptance of a law enforcement grant from the Pennsylvania Gaming Board. This would be the second year of our receiving that grant. Our current grant is up in July, so this would pick up where that one left off. And it's focused, it pays for a detective, partial salary of a district attorney to further our investigations into illegal gambling, online gambling, games of skill, and the like.
Any questions for Jonathan?
This has absolutely nothing to do with the new Parks Casino, is that correct?
No, unless there was some kind of, I could see us possibly, if someone was coming in to do some kind of cheating within the establishment,
Okay.
Or if there was some kind of organized crime that tried to infiltrate somehow, I could see us working with that.
Okay, within the confines of this grant then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you for the answers.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Jonathan. Next, I'll call on Mark Adams to discuss the contract for IMTO. Mark?
Good morning, Commissioners. Today I have a annual maintenance renewal agreement in front of you for our website posting and support for the Civic Plus. The annual cost is $16,132.16. That's an increase of $544.87. This is normal support, maintenance, posting, some security practices, redundancy on their support site as far as power and internet service providers. So it's a well amount of money for that type of service. So
questions on that, but Mark, since you're on here, I'm just gonna take a second to put in a plug for the, possibility of us ramping up our, some cyber security audit. There's a lot of stuff in the news right now, and Darren and I spent a good chunk of time last week working through some potential issues that we thought we'd identified. It turned out to be not a problem, but he and I talked about the cybersecurity issue. Simply, it's in the news every day now. We've had serious breaches locally, so I'm just gonna put in the plug to say, maybe it's time for us to do another audit using some external sources as well. He said he was gonna talk to you about some providers he's aware of.
Yeah, and we do have that built into our budget every year for doing some external security, penetration tests and things like that. And we've worked with the Department of Homeland Security over the last couple of years. So we are going to pursue a third party outside of the norm. And like I said, it's budgeted this year, so I expect us to move forward with something fairly quickly.
Okay.
But yes, Darren shared me your comments as well, so I appreciate those conversations.
Good, all right, thanks for your attention on that. Anybody else have? Okay, thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Next up, call on Sue Carval to discuss the contracts for early intervention for fiscal year 2020-2021. Sue?
Yes, good, excuse me. Yes, good morning, Commissioners. The first provider is Jill Bricker. This is a new contract. She is a special instructor, and we are starting the contract at $5,000. Second contract is Joanna Carnes. She is also a special instructor. It's an addendum to her contract for this year, and it's an increase of $872 based on additional services for the children. The third contract, International Corporate Training and Marketing, is our language interpretation service. It's an addendum to our current year contract. It's an increase of $7,407, and it's due to an increase in services. The fourth contract, Feeding Little Bellies, is a nutrition support service. It's an addendum to this year's contract. It's an increase of $9,383. And again, it's due to additional services for the children. And the last contract, TMB Developmental Therapy and Infant Massage, they do our evaluations for our services. It is an addendum to their contract for this year. It's an increase of $2,542. Any questions?
Yep. All right, thank you very much, Sue. The last set of contracts we have, last but not least, is Kirk Stoner to discuss the granting contract for the planning department.
Sure. Commissioners, these are land partnerships contracts from last year. The first is for Mechanicsburg Borough for the South Mountain Trolley Trail feasibility study. It's phase 2 of that study. The other one is the County Coalition for Sustainable Future doing business as the Cumberland Conservation Collaborative, which I believe you're familiar with. That's the Tonic Quail Creek study, which is looking at a greenway that would connect Hampton Township, Campbell Borough, and East Pennsboro Township.
Any questions for Kirk? All right, thank you very much, Kirk. Solicitor Brennan is going to discuss agenda item number 7 with us. Solicitor Brennan?
I will try. You all received notice that Mr. Booker has resigned as a member of the Board of Assessment Appeals. His resignation is effective upon your acceptance. And I mention that specifically because there are still 2 members, and 2 members can perform the functions of the board. And for purposes of you making a possible appointment and the timing of that, July 8, 2021 is the tentative next scheduled assessment hearings. So I give that to you because you do have some time. You can accept his resignation Monday, which would be your normal course, but you do have time to make an appointment in that place if you need more time between now and Monday and the acceptance of his resignation.
Okay, just, and I've been in touch with them on this specifically because the practice is that each of the commissioners appoints one member of the appeals board. Mr. Cooper was my appointee, and I've been asked to come up with a name. Apparently they have an individual who's interested prospectively but I have a few names that I'm going to be prospecting among. So it sounds like it would be ideal if we brought that forward and moved on that no later than July 8th. Am I interpreting that correctly?
That's correct, and frankly, the sooner probably the better to have a new member be orientated to what's expected of that member.
Okay. All right, so we'll proceed with that. We'll be hearing more on that in the near future.
Okay. Moving on then to agenda item number 8, I'll call on Justin Miller to discuss the approval letter for the Department of Environmental Protection. Justin?
Morning, Commissioners. Try to be brief here, but I do want to give you a little bit of detail. Back in 2008, we used deep recycling grant money to buy 12 roll-off recycling bins. And Gary, you may recall, we held a grand opening celebration out at the Newville Lions Fairground.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first location for those bins. Is replacing a volunteer group that had disbanded. It was shortly after we deployed them, some of the municipalities in western part of the county asked to host them. So we moved containers to several municipalities. Eventually they went to curbside to the point where we only had a need for 3. We previously transferred ownership of 9. The 3 were at Lower Frankfurt. The waste management acquisition of advanced disposal has changed the landscape. The recyclables were being taken down to Diller's transfer station, which was owned by Advanced Disposal as well. As part of the acquisition, Waste Management had to divest that because they have their own transfer station in Camp Hill. In early April, the new owner of Diller's made the decision that they were not going to accept bulk recycling anymore. They were just going to focus on the trash business. So that we essentially lost our outlet for recyclables. And it really doesn't make sense to drive light loads down to York or Hagerstown. So they shut down their site and have returned the containers to us. We have an agreement with DEP, basically says if you no longer have a need for these, you need to come to us for disposition instructions because we paid for 90% of the cost. So I did that, and they have found a new interested owner, Monroe County Solid Waste Authority. And what they do is prepare what's called a transfer of ownership letter that's signed by DEP, us, and the new owner. So that I'm requesting your signature on this letter to transfer the ownership and grant responsibilities to Monroe County Solid Waste Authority. And I'd also like to add that because of the pandemic, they are asking that we do electronic signatures. So if you decide to approve signing the letter on Monday, we can certainly get a signed copy, but what they're asking is we just essentially type in your name and then forward the electronic version on to Monroe County. And we'll retain the signed copy for our records.
Any questions for Justin?
I have no questions, but I had a little trouble focusing on you because I'm trying to read all those words behind you. That's more than a little distracting, especially the ones that are written bottom to top. It's one you can see me turning my head this way, you know. But no, that's very interesting. I think Stacy still misses the glowing globes or whatever.
Yeah, but we did challenge you to come up with an interesting background, and that you have done, sir.
You have absolutely
You did.
knocked that one out of the
Yes,
park.
I dug hard.
So, all right.
Thank you, Justin. Agenda item number 9 is Commissioner's Liaison Reports, and I'll start by calling on Commissioner Eichelberger.
Okay, I just have a few items. Going back, I could have let Justin do this, but since he was right there, but I put him on the spot last time. So just wanted to mention that in the written update he sent me, we covered all of that, which I don't need to repeat. But he let me know that the June 5th is the next household hazardous waste event. There are 360 slots as part of that. There's 40 left. So we've obviously got a lot of interest for an event that's not till June 5th. So 320 are already spoken for of the 360. that's another good indication that this is a great service. So, and we'll be seeing more promotion for that to get those last 40 slots filled. I anticipate no problems with that. So, there is a meeting Monday for the Recycling Authority, and I'm planning to be there. The advertisement for the county's disposal capacity, the advertisement for an increase there, that's going to appear in the May 15 Pennsylvania Bulletin. Judge's very pleased to say that we're going to be getting our trustees back to work the e-cycling center. Looks like that's going to be July when that starts, but that'll certainly give them a hand on ramping up, especially during the busy season of the summer when a lot of folks make use of the e-recycling. So we're going to do a little something to acknowledge some of the staff out there as well. I have more for you on that soon. Let me quick reach some of my other notes here. My computer stopped working this morning, so it's a little discombobulated. So I'm just going to hit the highlights here. On the mental health side, May, of course, Mental Health Awareness Month. The theme this year, Strive to Thrive. There's information on the NHIDD Facebook on events that are, as well as informational videos in regards to the general topic of mental health. Always worth taking a look. We've seen, of course, a lot of attention on this in recent months, particularly with the pandemic issues that have strained our support network and put additional strain on our individuals as well. So the Strive to Thrive MH Month conversation video is also on that Facebook site, worth a look. Crisis intervention training for law enforcement. There was a session this week. It's 40 hours of training, 5 days, 8 hours per day. They have 17 law enforcement officers in the class, including several that are Pennsylvania State Police, PSP. So they are reporting that's going very well. And the remainder of this week will be focused on de-escalation skills, something we've heard a lot about, something that clearly is an urgent and profound need for us to develop to deal with the current issues and situation we have. So there's also I have a link for a PowerPoint that's in regards to MH data. I have a couple of the slides here, and there's some really very interesting at-a-glance graphics about the situation we face here locally, and I'll be happy to send those around so everybody can get a good look at that. Obviously, still one of the ongoing concerns has been the increased suicide rate that we've seen, and continue to see troubling numbers on that, despite the efforts that it's been underway. Obviously, some of that is situational. Hopefully, will take care of itself as we move out of the worst of the pandemic. But still, many issues of concern there, particularly as funding remains flat and the number of individuals who are requesting service continues to rise. So, obviously, concerns there. Let me see if there's anything else. I just wanted to mention Sue reported to me about IDD case management. That's still mostly being done remotely. Caseworkers are assisting individuals with intellectual development disability who have not gotten vaccines yet. They're trying to connect them to providers, including Rite Aid, so they can get those vaccines out there, get the population protected, all part of our larger effort to get the general population numbers up so we can reach the herd immunity that allows us to move into a brighter future, of course. So the Project Search class, fourth one, as we reported before, their graduation will be June 7th. They have 4 interns that are participating in the program this year. 3 already have jobs to go to after graduation. So that's a positive development. So, and that is everything I have for now.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Eichberger. Commissioner Boschy.
So, let's see, I had the Western COG, and I'm going to try to tie this into the I-81 meeting I also attended. That was really the western part of the county. There were supervisors from all the municipalities there. It was held at the Penn Township Fire Hall, and certainly Penn Township has a vested interest in what goes on in I-81. But Steve Deck was there from PennDOT, Mike Kaiser was there from PennDOT. You know, this gentleman did a very nice job of presenting issues with I-81 But I found that the Western Cog was a bit disappointed that there really was nothing narrowed down to, hey, this is what we're gonna do with your exit. This is how we're gonna handle all these incoming warehouses. This is, we can put in a light here and make things a lot easier for you. And they talked about there were 3 gentlemen there from PennDOT, and all 3 of them talked about how expensive this Interstate 81 project is. And how expensive road projects are in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and how we just lack the money to do any of it. Which is really disappointing, because we need federal funds for these projects. We need state funds for these projects. Representative Glein was at the meeting at the Penn Township Fire Hall, and she left before we got into the conversation about the money. And I think it would be good if she stuck around and we could really talk about the money and how much it costs. Because I did ask the question, what is the long-term cost of not doing these things? If we're up to $30 billion to fix Interstate 81, from this line to this line, what is it costing us to not do it? And President John Wardle of the Penn Township Fire Company got up and he gave one of the most impassioned, impromptu speeches I've ever seen, where he talked about human loss and what that is like right there in the area that he is first due on. And it was very powerful, and he's absolutely truthful in what he says. So, we've got to get some of these projects taken care of. We've got to get moving on this. We talk about 81 over and over again, but we can't seem to move it forward. And so my heart went out to those 3 men from PennDOT too, because they give this big global piece, but at the end of the day, they can't look anyone in the eye and say, hey, we're going to get this fixed. It really is, it's disappointing. So the other thing I learned at the Western Cog is that there's going to be a pipeline meeting in Lower Frankfort on June 8th. Anybody know about that? Because I don't. I didn't know about it.
Nope.
So, once again, we've got Sunoco sliding one under the radar. So I'm going to find out some more about that. See if Bob Shively wants to attend. They talk about they're going to open up, they'll open up the garage there in Lower Frankfort so that people can come. But I'm not convinced Sunoco is going to do much more than the Zoom meeting that they did the last time. So that's a good thing for everyone to know, that there will be a pipeline meeting. Cook Township, I have some things to bring to the Board of Elections meeting from Cook Township. They have some things they'd like me to talk about. Always use your library, always. And I will tell you, yesterday I was in Silver Spring Township, and Commissioner DiFilippo, I want to tell you that, first of all, the things that are said about you in Silver Spring Township are unbelievably fabulous. They're just, they just are so proud of you. They do. It really was very nice. The Silver Spring Township Community Fire Company was very kind and hosted Governor Wolf yesterday. And President McDonald of the fire company gave a speech on what our volunteer firefighters need. And it was brilliant and wonderful. And I was so glad he was there and so glad he agreed to talk, because, boy, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania needs to hear that story too. And then Commissioner DiFilippo, I did not know this about you, but I just was like, wow, what a fantastic thing. That you were a huge part of getting a fire tax in Silver Spring, that it has been unbelievably helpful to that township and that fire company. So it was a good day for you. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Bocci. Commissioner DiFilippo.
Just to comment on that, Gene, that fire tax was passed unanimously.
Yes.
And we did take a little grief from it, but nobody's complaining now.
Exactly.
And also a comment too on I-81, and I don't think you were on the board yet, Gene, but I know Jim, Gary, and I, we met with both of our U.S. senators, congressmen, and we never got the feeling that it was a high priority on their list.
I know.
And until it is, nothing's going to change, I hate to say it. But, okay, all for that.
And Commissioner, if I can just add on to that for a minute. One of the things that really is glaring to me about this about I-81 and what is going on in Cumberland County on our exits and our interchanges. I'm driving home the other day and I'm on 81. I'm like, there are more tractor trailers on this highway than there are cars. And so tractor trailers are using our roads, they're using our resources, and we're not charging them for any of it. We're not charging, we don't appear to be charging our warehouses for this wear and tear on our roads, wear and tear in our air. Those are things that I think it's a shame we have not seriously considered and looked at. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, 2 items. The first one is the Capital Region Council of Governments will meet Monday evening. I'll be at that meeting. The Ag Preservation Board met yesterday and reviewed the 2020 applications and decided to accept the top 5 in order, but we were able to get 3 other farms willing to take call it a bargain sale, which is 50% of the easement value. And they voluntarily agreed to do this, and this will save the county, or at least give us the ability to use an additional $700,000 towards other farms. And 2 farms in Silver Spring will be co-worked with the county, and Silver Spring will be paying approximately 70% of the easement cost, and this will save the county at least an additional $450,000, which can be used for other farm preservation. It appears we will have 10 farms and 1,200 acres out of this latest round of applicants. The 30,000 by 2030 logo and flyer was approved. I made a personal plea to everybody in there that if they know groups of people who want to start additional township land preservation programs, to please get in touch with me and or the folks at Silver Spring. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner DeFilippo. I would like to report executive sessions were held on May 3rd, 2021 at 2:15 p.m. and May 12th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. regarding personnel. Is there any additional business that needs to come before the board today? Hearing none, we are adjourned.